On a packed flight from Chicago to New York, a white woman's bold move to claim the first-class seat of a black CEO sparked a confrontation that led to an unprecedented decision. The airline's operations halted just minutes later, stranding thousands. What unfolded in those tense moments revealed a clash of power, privilege, and principle that no one on board could have predicted. Malik Thompson, a 42-year-old CEO of Horizon Dynamics, a leading tech firm specializing in aviation software, boarded Flight 827 from Chicago to New York on a crisp autumn morning. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to high-stakes environments. His first-class ticket, secured through years of relentless work and strategic partnerships, was more than a seat. It was a symbol of his journey from a modest upbringing in Atlanta to the pinnacle of corporate success. As he approached seat 2A, he noticed a woman already seated there, her posture relaxed, her eyes fixed on her phone. The woman, Karen Ellison, a 38-year-old marketing consultant from suburban Illinois, had boarded early. She wore a cream-colored blazer and exuded an air of entitlement, her designer handbag resting on the seat beside her. Karen had been upgraded to first class due to a system glitch, but her boarding pass clearly indicated seat 3B. When Malik politely informed her that she was in his seat, she glanced up, her expression a mix of irritation and disbelief. "I'm fine here," Karen said, barely looking at him. "There are plenty of seats. Just take another one." Malik paused, his years of navigating corporate boardrooms teaching him to stay composed. He explained, calmly but firmly, that he had reserved 2A, showing her his boarding pass. Karen's response was sharp. "I don't see why it matters. It's just a seat. You're not going to make a big deal out of this, are you?" The exchange caught the attention of a flight attendant, a young woman named Sarah, who approached to mediate. Sarah checked both boarding passes and confirmed Malik's claim to 2A. Karen, however, refused to move, her voice rising. "This is ridiculous. I was here first. I'm not getting up because someone thinks they're more important." Her words carried a tone that drew glances from other passengers, some of whom began whispering. Malik, maintaining his composure, suggested a solution. "If there's another seat in first class, I'm happy to take it to avoid a scene." Sarah nodded, grateful for his flexibility, and checked the manifest. No other first-class seats were available. The flight was fully booked, and the boarding process was nearly complete. Sarah politely asked Karen to move to her assigned seat, 3B, just one row back. Karen's face reddened. "This is absurd," she snapped. "Do you know how much I paid for this upgrade? I'm not moving for anyone." Her voice grew louder, and she pointed at Malik. "He's making this a race thing, isn't he? Typical." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and deliberate. Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably, some pulling out their phones to record the escalating situation. Malik's jaw tightened, but he didn't take the bait. He had faced similar insinuations before, moments where his success was questioned, his presence scrutinized. Instead, he turned to Sarah. "I'd like to speak to the captain or the gate agent, please." His tone was measured, but there was an undeniable authority in it. Sarah hesitated, sensing the situation spiraling. She radioed the gate agent, who arrived minutes later. The agent, a middle-aged man named Tom, reviewed the situation and reiterated that Karen needed to move. Karen, now standing, crossed her arms defiantly. "This is discrimination," she declared. "You're all ganging up on me because I'm a woman. I'll be speaking to my lawyer about this." The confrontation delayed boarding, and the cabin grew tense. Passengers in economy craned their necks to see what was happening, while those in first class murmured among themselves. Malik, still standing in the aisle, checked his watch. He had a critical meeting in New York with airline executives, a deal that could expand Horizon Dynamics contracts with major carriers. Every minute mattered. Tom, the gate agent, made a final attempt to reason with Karen. "Ma'am, you're holding up the flight. If you don't take your assigned seat, we'll have to escalate this to security." Karen scoffed, but the mention of security prompted her to gather her belongings with exaggerated indignation. As she moved to 3B, she muttered under her breath, loud enough for Malik to hear, "This is why people like you don't belong up here." Malik took his seat, his expression unreadable. He opened his laptop, focusing on his presentation for the New York meeting, but the weight of Karen's words lingered. The flight attendant apologized profusely, and the plane finally pushed back from the gate, 15 minutes behind schedule. For most passengers, the incident seemed resolved, a minor disruption in the monotony of air travel. But for Malik, it was a spark. As the plane taxied, Malik made a call from his satellite phone, a privilege afforded to first-class passengers. He dialed his chief operating officer, Priya Patel, who was based at Horizon Dynamics headquarters in Seattle. "Priya," he said, his voice low but resolute, "we need to pull the plug on our contract with Summit Airlines. Effective immediately." Priya, accustomed to Malik's decisiveness, asked for clarification. "The entire contract? That's 40% of their operational software, Malik. They can't function without it." "What happened?" Malik recounted the incident briefly, emphasizing not just Karen's behavior but the airline's failure to handle it swiftly and decisively. "This isn't about one passenger," he said. "It's about a culture that allows this to escalate. They're not aligned with our values. We're done." Priya understood the gravity of the decision. Horizon Dynamics provided Summit Airlines with critical software for flight scheduling, crew management, and passenger processing. Terminating the contract would ground Summit's operations within hours. She confirmed she would initiate the process and notify the legal team to prepare for fallout. Malik ended the call as the plane reached cruising altitude. Back in Seattle, Priya convened an emergency meeting with Horizon's leadership. The decision was unanimous. If Malik believed Summit Airlines' culture was misaligned with Horizon's commitment to respect and integrity, the contract would be terminated. By the time Flight 827 landed at JFK, Horizon's legal team had sent a formal notice to Summit Airlines, citing a breach of partnership principles. The software licenses were revoked, effective immediately. Summit Airlines operations began to unravel within minutes. Without Horizon software, their systems couldn't process check-ins, assign crews, or generate flight plans. Flights across the country were delayed, then canceled. Passengers at airports from Los Angeles to Miami were left stranded, their frustration mounting as Summit staff scrambled to explain the chaos. Social media erupted with complaints, and news outlets picked up the story, initially attributing the shutdown to a technical glitch. Meanwhile, Malik disembarked at JFK, unaware of the full scale of the disruption he had triggered. He headed to his meeting with executives from another airline, where he secured a $200 million deal to integrate Horizon software into their operations. As he left the meeting, his phone buzzed with notifications. Priya had sent an update. Summit Airlines was in full crisis mode, with over 300 flights grounded and counting. The story of the seat dispute began to circulate, fueled by passenger videos posted online. Some praised Malik for standing his ground. Others criticized him, accusing him of overreacting to a minor slight. Karen, too, took to social media, framing herself as the victim of an overzealous CEO and an unfair system. Her posts gained traction among certain circles, but they were quickly overshadowed by the broader narrative of Summit's collapse. By evening, news outlets had connected the dots. Headlines blared. CEO's seat dispute triggers airline shutdown, and tech titan grounds Summit Airlines over first-class clash. Analysts estimated Summit's losses at $50 million for the day, with long-term damage to their reputation and stock price. The airline's CEO, Richard Holt, issued a public apology, promising an investigation into the incident and a review of staff training. But the damage was done. Malik, now back at his hotel, watched the news unfold. He hadn't intended to ground an airline when he boarded Flight 827, but he felt no regret. For him, it was a matter of principle. Horizon Dynamics had built its reputation on integrity, and he refused to partner with a company that tolerated behavior like Karen's, or a system that failed to address it promptly. He drafted a statement for Horizon's website, explaining the decision without naming Karen specifically. "Our partnerships reflect our values," he wrote. "When those values are compromised, we take action." The fallout continued for days. Summit Airlines limped along, leasing temporary software solutions at exorbitant costs while negotiating with Horizon to reinstate the contract. Malik agreed to talks but held firm on new terms, including mandatory diversity and inclusion training for Summit staff and a public commitment to passenger respect. Karen, meanwhile, faced scrutiny as her social media posts were dissected, revealing a history of similar complaints. She quietly deleted her accounts, but the internet had already archived her words. For passengers like those on Flight 827, the incident was a wake-up call. Some praised Malik's decisive action, seeing it as a stand against entitlement and prejudice. Others questioned whether one-seat dispute justified grounding an airline, stranding thousands. The debate raged online, with opinion pieces dissecting the intersection of race, power, and privilege in corporate America. Malik returned to Seattle, where his team greeted him with a mix of awe and apprehension. Priya pulled him aside. "You realize you've changed the game, right?" she said. Malik nodded, his focus already shifting to the next challenge. For him, the incident wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. And in those tense minutes on Flight 827, he had drawn a line that reshaped an industry.